You think Israel gives a shit about its own soldiers? I was looking at this story, and we're going to get right into this article. This is a really telling article. So I'll give you guys a little summation as to what happened here. So during the most recent war in Lebanon, there was an amateur archaeologist. This guy was not supposed to be in Lebanon. He wasn't supposed to be on the battlefield. This guy is not a soldier. He was a soldier, but he's no longer a soldier. He's an old amateur archaeologist, Israeli archaeologist, and he is a part of the settler movement. And his whole spiel is to go into the West Bank and dig up Jewish archaeology to prove that Jews were there for thousands of years as a way to create propaganda from the archaeology to justify settler expansionism. That's what this guy's whole spiel is, or was, because he's dead now. But his whole thing was, I go to the West Bank, I dig up artifacts to prove that Jews have always been here, therefore that justifies, demolishing your home and taking over your land. So this guy goes to Lebanon because the settler movement in Israel wants to expand into Lebanon. And during the war in Lebanon, this guy snuck in. He snuck into Lebanon because they told them, well, the soldiers, there are these soldiers who are going to be stationed near this ancient place. This place that has some archaeological remains. And it's an ancient fortress, I think. And the soldiers are going to be there, so you can go there and you can look at archaeology. And this guy is a part of the settler movement, which means he wanted settler expansionism. And the settler movement does want to expand into Lebanon because they believe that Israel has some sort of a historical right to a part of Lebanon. So this guy goes over there to find Jewish archaeology. That's why he was there. And he wanted to find Jewish archaeology so that he can make an argument that Jews have a right to that area. So he goes over there, and there are a bunch of soldiers around him. And what these soldiers didn't know, what these Israeli soldiers did not know, was that Hezbollah was watching them. And they didn't give a shit if this guy was not a soldier and that he was an archaeologist. They didn't give a damn. For one thing, the archaeologist was dressed up as a soldier. And he had a gun. So to Hezbollah, he was just another soldier. Hezbollah did an ambush on them. Hezbollah kills the archaeologist. And Hezbollah injures the soldier who invited the archaeologist over. And Hezbollah kills the soldier who was there, just a 20-year-old soldier, just a 20-year-old guy. Hezbollah kills this 20-year-old soldier, and this is the soldier who was there to guard the archaeologist. So the soldier was there to guard someone who wasn't supposed to be there. He had no authorization to be there. And this soldier was guarding him. And the archaeologist was there not for the Israeli government, but for the settler movement. And so the soldier died because of something that the settler movement wanted to do. They wanted to bring this archaeologist over, and they said, hey, could you guard this archaeologist? Oh, okay. He's just a 20-year-old guy. What does he know? Dies. So the settler movement does an event. And the event was a memorial event. And it wasn't a memorial to remember the soldier who was killed defending this archaeologist. It was a memorial event to remember the archaeologist. And the parents of the soldier who was killed went to the event, and they didn't even see a photograph of their son in the memorial event. And so what did they do? The father, of course, understandably, justifiably, blows up emotionally and lashes out at everybody in the room. And he says, you guys didn't even put a photo of my son who died for your guy who was there for the sake of your movement, your settler movement. And not only did they not give a shit about the guy, the son who was killed, but they really made it clear that they were very indifferent. They made that very clear. Because when they were trying to tell the parents about what happened, different soldiers spoke with the parents, and the soldiers gave conflicting narratives, and they were lying to the parents. So what's the point of this, right? You're sending young men in there to die, and you don't even give a shit about the young men dying. You just care about some ideological advancement, territorial advancement. So anyway, it says here, grief and gaslighting. How the raw pain of a fallen soldier's family shocked Israel and exposed IDF arrogance. So here's the father screaming at these assholes. Screaming at them. And it says here, I highlighted certain parts. It says here, it all happened at a conference in memory of Ze'ev Ehrlich, a 70-year-old settler activist and amateur archaeologist. And this guy died in Lebanon last month in one of the most controversial incidents of the Israel-Hezbollah war, an incident that now haunts the military's senior command and has become the center of a polarizing national scandal. And this is, of course, a scandal in Israel. Ehrlich, I think it's Ehrlich, a retired IDF reserve officer, long ago finished his days of service, yet had developed a years-long hobby of joining military missions in different parts of the West Bank as an archaeological expert. So it says here that when the force reached the ancient fortress, so they said, oh yeah, there's this ancient fortress in Lebanon, you should come. And then, now why was he there? He was there to do archaeological discovery, archaeological exploration. That's why he was there, because he wants to show, well, the Jews were here thousands of years ago, so therefore, blah, settlements can be built. So it says here that when the force reached the ancient fortress, a Hezbollah ambush awaited. Ehrlich died from gunfire, and the officer who had invited him was injured. But what made the entire ordeal exponentially worse was the death of Gur Kehati, a 20-year-old soldier. Ehrlich's very presence on foreign soil, in uniform, yet without an official role, was enough to raise disturbing questions. The next morning, a fringe far-right movement calling for the construction of settlements in southern Lebanon put out a statement regarding Ehrlich's death, describing him as an active supporter of its mission. So that right there explains why this asshole was in Lebanon. He was there for his own weird fantasy of settlements, and I mean, it may not be a fantasy because they actually may pull it off, but this guy was here because he was there in Lebanon because he wants to show that Jews have historical roots in Lebanon, so therefore settlements should be built. Kehati's father is himself so Kehati is the guy who was killed, the 20-year-old soldier. Kehati's father is himself a combat officer who had spent decades in the reserve and, in a chilling coincidence, is also a senior official in Israel's Antiquities Authority. So the father is also someone who was involved in the archaeological arena in Israel. And his son was killed protecting this guy who is an amateur archaeologist, but he's doing archaeology for ideological purposes. But what happened instead was a deceptive effort by the military to avoid a real investigation. Haaretz reporter Bar Peleg revealed disturbing details about the IDF's evasiveness. Key witnesses, including soldiers who were at the fortress during the battle, had not been questioned. Officers who met with the family offered conflicting versions of the events that led up to the controversial mission. So they were basically lying to the parents, giving them conflicting accounts. Then, earlier this year, Kehati's parents learned that the Shomron Regional Council was planning to hold an archaeology-themed conference in commemoration of Ehrlich, with senior IDF officers among the list of speakers. So they did this event, and the event was about the archaeologist, not about the soldier who was killed. They don't give a damn. Our son died, and no one even bothered to put a picture of him over here, shouted Ron Kehati, Gur's father. Why did you rush to hold this conference when our son's blood hasn't even dried yet? They don't give a damn about you guys. They don't care. It's all about power, territory. I mean, I hate to sound like one of these bleeding heart hippies, but it's the truth. He threw an object toward a nearby screen and pleaded with the colonel on stage to stop his speech. Gur's mother, Ma'ayan, was quieter and more reserved, but her sadness was even more difficult to watch. I have another son in the army, she said. How am I supposed to send him there? With what kind of message? That he's being used as a tool? Yes. That's the message. That's the message. The message is, you guys are tools. An archaeologist who wasn't even supposed to be in Lebanon gets killed. The guy guarding him gets killed. And we care about the archaeologist because the archaeologist was there to advance our own ideological interest. The guy who was killed, who cares? That is the sad reality. Yes, he is seen as a tool. It's like the young ladies who were put on the border between Israel and Gaza. These young Israeli ladies were put on the border between Israel and Gaza to watch what Hamas was up to surveil Hamas's activities. And so they noticed that Hamas was training for something big. And these young ladies, they're in intelligence. They're observers. That was their jobs. And so they were observing Hamas, and it came to the point where they were watching Hamas's activities so much that they were able to even remember the names of the Hamas people involved. They were able to remember their names, who these people were. And so they were sending out reports to the higher-ups, to the people who were above them in the military, and they were saying, listen, Hamas is planning something big. You guys need to do something. And you know what one Israeli officer told one of these observers? He said, I'm going to put you in jail if you tell me about this. If you keep telling me about Hamas planning something big, I am going to put you in jail. These ladies were threatened with jail time for simply warning Israel, for warning the people in charge of security over there about the October the 7th attack. They don't give a shit. I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say that Israel wanted October the 7th to happen because it fit an ideological ends. It fit a certain purpose, and the purpose was to justify a massive, massive bombardment on Gaza so that Israel can expand into Gaza. I think that was the goal, and they did not want October the 7th to be prevented. They knew it was going to happen. There were people warning Israel that it was going to happen, and they didn't give a damn. And in fact, not only did they not give a damn, they were in fact threatening people who were warning them about October the 7th with jail time. That's how sick it is. The soldier was likely to be a conscript. Yep, he was most likely just a poor soul conscript who was there because he had to be there. It's sick, this waste of human life. But money is God. Money is God for these people. That's their God. That's their religion. Swiss banks, protect them. Human lives, fuck them. I'll see you on the beach. Put him on the beaches of Normandy. And this is the guy that died. I feel bad. It's sad, man. It's sad. One factor is fear of confronting. So why the military is doing this remains a mystery. So why was the military so dishonest, and why was the military gaslighting this poor family about what happened to their son? So it says here, why the military is doing this remains a mystery, but there are several clues visible to anyone who follows the news. It says here, one factor is fear of confronting religious right-wing politicians and journalists who rush to portray Ehrlich as a fallen hero before the investigation even began, and would for sure attack the military if its findings showed otherwise. So they wanted to portray this Ehrlich guy as this amazing hero, and they knew that if they started to critique Ehrlich's actions in Lebanon, or if they questioned why Ehrlich was in Lebanon in the first place, that they would be attacked by the far right. Another reason is simple: arrogance, which has shown itself in other recent encounters between the military high command and families demanding answers for failures that led to the deaths of their loved ones. A prime example is the military's year-long refusal to provide information to the families of the female intelligence soldiers who were murdered in the Nahal Oz base on October the 7th. Sadly, the list of such examples keeps growing. So these women were killed. These are the observers. That's who I was talking about before. These were the ladies who were watching Hamas, and they were murdered by Hamas. And it says here that a prime example of the IDF's arrogance is the military's year-long refusal to provide information to the families of the female intelligence officers who were murdered. Again, they don't give a shit about you. The same thing can be said about the U.S. military. They don't give a damn about you. It's a scam, guys. They use attacks. They want terrorism because terrorism gives them the argument that they can justify a policy, and they want terrorism to happen. It doesn't matter what human life is lost. They don't care. War is a continuation of politics by other means. Absolutely. That is absolutely true. Mr. Iron Warrior. That cocktail sounds like a Conan. Okay, I don't know what you guys are talking about.